WrestleMania season continues here on Kicking Out at 2 this week. I am your host, Dave Rosenbluth, and we got a really fun show planned for you, as this week is the 25th anniversary of what many consider one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13, the submission match from WrestleMania 13, where it was infamous, the infamous double turn. Bret turned heel. Austin became the biggest babyface of all time, or at least he was on path to do so. Joining me, it's been a long time since you've been in the co-host chair, and I thought this would be a perfect opportunity for you to come back and sprinkle your brand of opinion 25 years later as we watch this great match, Bret Hart, Steve Austin. My brother, Justin Rosenbluth.
Great to be here. Yeah, I was once called the offensive coordinator of the.
You still are?
No, I'm probably more of like a offensive consultant.
Okay, all
maybe
right.
of sorts.
A consigliere.
Yeah, something more like that.
Consigliere, I can get behind
that work. I'm Silvio Dante.
Yeah, okay. Silvio Dante.
I'm Silvio Dante to your Tony Soprano. That works for me. I can't handle the big C.
Okay, all right. I get it. That's all good. So I'm looking forward to this. It's been a long time since we've been doing one of these things. And, true story here. This is the first Kicking Out at 2 podcast that I'm recording since the basement has been redone. And that's a whole nother shit show in and of itself. So it's good to be back doing this with you, of course, and then watching this match. So for all you out there that want to join us, hit us up on the Peacock. Hit your Peacock up, grab your cock, and go to the WWE Hub, and then you'll find WrestleMania 13. And I'm going to have you fast forward to WrestleMania 13 at 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 51 seconds. And when I say play, you'll press play and watch with me. When I play, initially when we watch this, I'm going to have the audio up so we can hear the video package for Bret and Austin, and then the entrances for both Bret and Austin, as it's really telling in those entrances what kind of story was going to be told in the match, and then the trajectories of both Bret and Austin following this match as well. And then there's some other points I do want to discuss with you, get your opinion on some things. Sure. So without further ado, Peacock, WWE, search WrestleMania 13, 1 hour, 18 minutes, 51 seconds. And when I say play, press play. I'll give you guys a little bit of a countdown in 3, 2, 1, hit play. No, hold on. Let me try that again. Make sure that my sound is on. Yep, there we go. So I'm going to have the audio on just for this video package, the entrances, etc., and we'll take it from there. So in 3, 2, 1, hit play.
Imagine, for over a decade, you fought to reach the pinnacle of your profession. Through sweat and dedication, you've earned the respect of fans, friends, and even your adversaries. Then, you walk away. When you return 6 months later, nothing is the same.
I've been screwed by Shawn Michaels, the boy toy. I've been screwed by Stone Cold Steve Austin. I've been screwed by the World Wrestling Federation.
There are no friends.
There's kind of a new motto in the World Wrestling Federation. You scratch my back and I'll stab yours.
There is no respect.
Everybody in that dressing room knows that I'm the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
Even your fans have changed. At the heart of this change is a man who spits in the face of your every accomplishment.
Ever since you came back, you ain't done nothing but cry.
He is getting paid by attacking you physically and verbally.
Steve Austin, absolutely the top, obsessed with Bret Hart. Steve Austin is a rabid, he's a rabid animal.
This man mocks your legacy. He uses it as a stepping stone. Like a false prophet, he spews forth his rhetoric.
Bret Hart on his best day can't lace my boots, and I'm gonna prove that to the world. And I will beat the hell out of Bret, and that's the bottom line.
His followers carry placards singing his praise. Injustice after injustice has finally caused you to snap.
Wow! Frustrated isn't a word for it. This is.
Now, the finger is pointed at you. You're the one who's changed.
He's snapped, McMahon! He's lost it! Get him out of here! Drag it out!
Oh my God.
They say your ego is your enemy.
Vince.
What happened to you? There's only one solution. To awaken from this nightmare, you must defeat him. To regain your life and resume your legacy, you must make him beg for mercy as you squeeze the will from his bones. But what if Stone Cold Steve Austin wins? What becomes of Bret the Hitman Hart then?
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, allow me to introduce the special guest referee for the following match from the Ultimate Fighting World, King Shamrock.
King Shamrock obviously in great condition, and this man can handle himself, no doubt about that. He has proven to be the very best at one time or another, and maybe still is, in the Ultimate Fighting World. Can he handle the Hitman Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin? Well, it's going to be a huge challenge, there's no doubt about that. King Shamrock, as ABC Television said, the most dangerous man in the world. He may have to prove that here tonight. Well, all you got to do is ask Billy Gunn. And there he is. One of the great competitors. A lot of people say he's the most dangerous man in the world. Whoa! Listen to this crowd! Listen to this response! Nothing fancy about this man. You talk about in your face. That is who Stone Cold Steve Austin is. And getting quite a positive response from this capacity crowd. Sort of makes you wonder. Here's Austin now. He'll get in the face of King Shamrock. Although Shamrock, I don't believe, will be intimidated. Steve Austin is 6'2", 252, said there's not a human being walking the face of the earth that can make him say, I quit. And I think I believe it. And the Hitman must step over that broken glass. And here he comes. A mixed reaction to a man who unquestionably has a legacy here in the World Wrestling Federation. But it's a place that legacy has somewhat taken a turn. Yeah, you took a little turn when he knocked you on your knees, man. I didn't appreciate it one bit, let me tell you. And I think Bret Hart was out of line for doing that, as well as being out of line for the abusive obscenities being hurled on live television. There's no excuse for that, no matter how much this man so-called has been screwed up. Well, you almost called him a son of a...
No warming up in the bullpen there.
No, I didn't need it though. After watching that really that whole sequence from the package to the entrances and everything definitely takes you back.
Oh yes,
classic.
yes.
And not even just classic, just the right way to do it.
What between like in terms of like a classic good guy versus bad guy
Yeah, and I think
setup or just the way that they set the video package?
The hype, everything. And,
Okay.
and the video package is obviously so much a part of that. But
Yeah.
you know, I lived through this storyline probably as much as anybody.
Yep.
Being an avid Bret Hart fan, you know, I never, you know, and years later, I was when, of course, I was smartened up to the idea of what actually takes place in this match.
Yep.
But to me, that didn't change the reality of it as I witnessed it in 1997. Bret Hart to me was always the good guy, and you know, I'll share the sentiment of a recent CM Punk who said Bret Hart is right. Bret Hart was always right, and that's how I felt here. The guy came back, should have come back to Hero's Welcome. He thwarted off Stone Cold Steve Austin, who, in my opinion, this bad guy version up until this match is one of the most criminally underrated bad guys in the history of wrestling.
100%.
Criminal and only underrated because he became a good guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Became one of the best
People
good guys
forget that
ever.
he was so good at being
Yes,
bad. You
exactly.
know what I mean?
So Bret Hart came back.
He broke into Brian Pillman's house.
Yeah.
When Brian Pillman had a gun.
Yeah, and those things probably, like, over time probably helped build the blocks for the good guy that he became.
Yeah.
But again, he was the bad guy. He beat up Brian Pillman, re-injuring his ankle, to set up this match with Bret, and Steve Austin was made that night in
100%.
Survivor Series in Madison Square Garden, and obviously the rocket ship just kept going after that and leading to this. But, Bret Hart entered a world in 1997 that he returned to that was just so different. And Steve Austin was such a catalyst for that. And again, saying this now, 25 years later, as a fan, I was, floored with with everything that Bret Hart said. I share that sentiment. You know, the disrespect, the unfairness, just the Wild West nature of the WWE that he had come back to. I think I've said too before that, like, someone in your age group grew up with the trauma of seeing the crooked referee and Earl Hebner and Dave Hebner and Hogan getting robbed of the title and that whole shenanigans. Bret Hart losing the Royal Rumble to Steve Austin in the fashion that he did was my equivalent to that, because in my opinion that was like the only thing he had left to do was win the Royal Rumble, and he was like in the spot to become the winner of the Royal Rumble and go to WrestleMania and get the belt back from Shawn Michaels, and everything that I think traditionally I understood would be the way that it would happen
was taken away from you.
Yes, and Austin as an individual and as a character, and ultimately the whole company, that they just redefined the tradition and the convention.
Yeah.
So,
that's a great way of putting it.
Oh man, this is still to this day. Bret Hart was right, man. You know what I mean?
You can make an argument. No doubt about it. I don't disagree.
As a character.
The character.
Yeah,
the character in the context of the story.
Yeah.
Yes, he was right 100%. He was screwed out of many opportunities to be the champion, and many obstacles along the way with Austin and Michaels' involvement. Before I've watched this, watching this match with you as we're recording this, I've watched a lot of older, like 96, 97 episodes of Raw, and even I watched the In Your House It's Time pay-per-view.
Yep.
And you could see that, you could make an argument that they were planting the seeds for Bret to turn heel even before this, with the way that he conducted himself towards babyface Shawn Michaels,
yes,
who was the champion.
Yes.
Bret had this angst in his character that was towards Shawn because of the manner that he lost the title at WrestleMania. And in years later, in interviews with both Bret and Shawn, they were building off of that to eventually get to this point of WrestleMania 13, which brings me to this question. This match is the product of, let's face it, Shawn Michaels losing his smile.
Yeah.
All right? If Shawn Michaels didn't lose his smile, this match at WrestleMania may not... There's a 95% chance this wasn't going to happen. The Bret and Austin. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, what was... To me as a fan, I was disappointed that Shawn wasn't going to be wrestling at WrestleMania and he wasn't going to have the rematch with Bret. Because as much as I respected and to some degree liked the Bret Hart character, I was more of a Shawn guy. I had, for whatever reason, I just liked Shawn more than Bret. But I didn't dislike Bret.
Yeah, and I was the opposite of that. I like Shawn, but, my love for Bret is eternal.
What were your thoughts 25 years ago when it was pretty much a done deal that Shawn and Bret was not happening at this WrestleMania? What were your thoughts?
Well, I will say on a side note that the fact that it ended up being that The Undertaker was going to kind of take that spot made me feel good, because I didn't like Sid. I was starting to like Shawn Michaels right when he dropped the title to Sid, so I was kind of pissed that Sid became the champion. I was kind of pissed that he became the champion again at the expense of Bret Hart. So when
I was annoyed by that one too. I'm not gonna lie, I was annoyed by that one.
So when
the night after Final Four, you're talking about, right?
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
Yep.
So when Undertaker was slotted into that position, I think it was a formality at that point that, all right, Undertaker's going to walk away at WrestleMania with the title. As, he should. He was at that level even then, you know what I mean? Once Bret and Shawn wasn't happening, this honestly felt like a consolation. We had already seen Austin and Bret.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The added stipulation, I felt like, at least on paper, I was like, Bret's going to wipe the floor with Steve Austin. Bret Hart is...
Submission match.
Yeah. Sharpshooter.
Yeah.
You know, one of my all-time favorite moves, the ring post figure 4. Someone's got to bring that back, by the way. You know, Bret Hart was, you know... He's still, to this day, the excellence of execution. So, you know, to me... And Austin hadn't really... You know, he was a great wrestler before his neck injury, so around this time, he wasn't a Bret Hart. He just wasn't. I know in the package there he said on Bret Hart's best day he couldn't lace Austin's boots. It's quite frankly the opposite. And Steve Austin, the man, today would say that.
But that's Austin being a good heel. That's Austin believing what he's telling you.
So,
you know?
But like as the weeks wore on, like you knew this wasn't going to be. Even as a young fan, I knew it wasn't going to be like a submission match in the name of it. You know what I mean? It was going to be more of an I Quit match. It was going to be more of a they're just going to beat the living piss out of each other. And I think
stunner!
The phrase just in the earliest part of the match
without the setup of the kick to the gut.
Yeah, which you know, I think is probably different, or at least this was before this. I mean, the stunner was his move, but before it became worldwide, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I felt like that. The phrase that Bret used in the lead up to this match that let me know, this is going to be different, was he told Steve Austin, I'm going to beat you to a bloody pulp. And I don't know why I remember that phrasing even to this day, but he had said that, and I was like, this is the Bret Hart I've been waiting for. Because, when that stuff was building with Shawn, like you said, and then even with Steve, here it is. Bret Hart, to me, had the nice guys finish last type of mentality. Like, if there was only someone as good as Bret Hart but had an edge, it was Shawn Michaels. You know what I mean? And Shawn Michaels would do what Bret wouldn't to win, if that makes any sense. But once Bret returned and he was getting bamboozled every which way to Sunday, this is when that edge to Bret came. And that's when I was like, okay, here we go. And to me, and I will say this even now, 25 years later, there was nobody who could touch the Bret Hart character that would become of this after this match. 1997 was from this day till, let's just say, pre-DX. Pre-DX, because DX, I think, usurped Bret. Pre-DX, once DX started to, from this day forward to once DX started and really took over, the character that Bret Hart cultivated should be on a Mount Rushmore of sorts.
He definitely owned the WWF in 1997. That's for sure. And from that block.
And I will say, and again, maybe I'm a homer, but like, I know Sting and Hogan were building to the greatest match in the century and all that stuff.
Yep.
But they couldn't touch this. They couldn't do this, and they couldn't.
They were both different and great in their own ways.
Yes. But again, that's where my bias comes in.
Yeah. Your bias comes in that you preferred, the Bret Hart character.
But even Steve Austin, they didn't have Steve Austin. They
didn't
didn't have a Shawn Michaels. They certainly didn't have an Undertaker.
No.
They were truly.
But they had good top stars within their bubble. You know what I mean? Like,
they did what they did, and they were
in WCW.
Yeah,
and
I think too the other part of this that I actually give props to the WWE, especially now. There's a lot of revisionist history when it comes to things that have happened 25 and 30 years ago that the WWE wishes they could have told that story the way they're telling it now.
Yeah.
Here, they have recalled this, and since it's happened, perfectly. They didn't revise this. They haven't revised this, not the physical match, but the story.
Yeah. The outcome.
They've even here in the story, in the video package, recognized the change that the industry was going into.
Yeah.
And going under. Which I think is emblematic of the idea that they all knew going into this match, we're gonna do the double turn.
Yeah,
there was so much of that taking place behind the scenes, so much genius.
So do you think? All right, let's come back here for a second, okay? I'm glad you brought that point up. Do you think I'm going to give you two questions. Number one, had Shawn not lost his smile, what do you think Austin's trajectory was for this WrestleMania? What do you think he was? What do you think they had in mind for him to do? That's one. And two, do you think they still would have executed the double turn with Bret and Shawn? Because the narrative that I have always read over the years and I could be wrong. It could, but the narrative that I have always been under the impression of was that Bret was going to get the win back at this WrestleMania against Shawn, with Shawn going in as the champion. They were going to be one apiece at WrestleManias. Do you think, with the way that the industry was changing, and with the way that Bret Hart's character was being portrayed, even before Shawn lost his smile, he had a little bit of an edge? Do you think Bret and Shawn were going to... Do you think there was going to be a turn? I shouldn't even say double turn. Do you think Bret was going to turn had he wrestled Shawn at this WrestleMania?
Yeah, but I don't necessarily even think, and again, it's all conjecture at this point, but I don't even think that Bret necessarily would have needed to win to even any score. In fact, you could argue that Bret Hart could have wrestled Shawn Michaels on this show and lost and further facilitated a turn.
Well, that's what I'm saying, too. Like, do you think that's something that would have been...
On a loss. So being down 0-2, if you will.
Or do you think Bret would have cheated to win? And that's how we got the turn, because Shawn was that much better than him, and he was so frustrated he didn't get the belt back. He went to great lengths to cheat to defeat Shawn Michaels.
And that would have been a great turn too. And then Bret could have paraded that around, like, look, I did what everybody does in the World Wrestling Federation.
Now I'm the bad guy for doing everything that's been done to me.
Yeah, exactly. They could have gone that way too.
You weren't crying foul when it happened to me, but now that I do, that's
So I think it could have gone either way, and I think a turn would have taken place. That I think would have definitely set up more matches.
We both had to be in elementary and middle school for this to have taken place.
I was 8 years old.
So I was 14 years old at the time. Yep, so I was actually I was in 8th grade.
Yep, I was
8th grade.
2nd grade?
2nd or 3rd grade. Or 2nd grade,
no, I was 3rd grade. I'm sorry. I was 3rd grade. As far as Austin, again, I think an ideal opponent for him. Again, I think you would look at it two ways. If the audience kept rallying behind Steve Austin, I think you could have put him up against Sid.
Yep.
If not as strong as maybe they had rallied behind him, The Undertaker. I think those would have been the two guys you would probably put him in the ring with. He would have probably become, and you could have done it both ways.
Yeah.
I think it would have just depended, and I think. Seeing what they did with Austin following this, having worked with The Undertaker after WrestleMania.
Cold Day in Hell?
Yeah, I think that could have been here, theoretically. Or the beginnings of that. Those would probably have been the two guys.
Here's one name that I honestly thought it was leading to a WrestleMania match. Was him and Davey Boy. Because Davey Boy had kind of... He'd gained a little bit of an edge. He had some beef with Owen, even though they were tag partners, and Austin was kind of getting involved. Austin kind of had his hands in multiple different cookie jars, and that was one of them. And I honestly thought we would have saw a Davey Boy Austin. If Bret and Shawn were to have taken place, I thought we were going to see Davey Boy and Austin, or Davey Boy and Owen.
Now, I could definitely have seen that. Davey Boy, and this is kind of like what makes a lot of this stuff so good. Like, you see the pull aparts
right here.
You see the pull aparts. You see the that type of trash talk that would take place. You would see Davey Boy in a lot of these exchanges, especially as you headed into the summer of '97, and that dude looked like you couldn't hold that motherfucker back.
Yeah,
he was gonna kill Steve Austin for Bret, for Stu, for Owen. You know what I mean? Like, he was a bulldog.
Yep.
And Steve Austin is a fucking Texas rattlesnake.
Yep.
Just a cold-hearted son of a bitch.
Yep.
There would have been a lot of, pardon the pun, raw emotion in that you could really go like, oh my god, these guys look like they really hate each other.
Yeah.
I think that would have been an interesting, as you bring it up, an interesting matchup if they had gone that way, to say the least. But yeah, this is obviously a huge part of the match, considering the historical ramifications of what goes on. But the part that I always think about too, I mean, we can even ask this question, is, based on at least the storytelling that Bret has given in interviews and in his book and things of that nature, is that this wasn't supposed to take place. There wasn't supposed to be blood. That he had helped facilitate Austin cutting himself.
Yep. I've heard that from others too, not just Bret.
Yeah, and Bret's veteran savvy helped kind of get Austin through that.
On a recent JR, Grill and JR, which I don't listen. I stopped listening to him for a while, and I kind of got back into some because of some of the subjects.
Yeah.
they covered Austin's 1997 just recently.
That's a hell of a year.
And JR admits that he knew these guys were they were gonna perform that spot where Austin cut himself. And at the time, he's head of talent relations, knowing that there was a no blood policy in the company, and he raises the awareness in the discussion that his job could have been at stake, knowing what these two were going to do.
Yeah, the liberties that they took. Yeah, and I think how do you think this whole sequence would have been impacted as we're getting into it right now? How do you think it would have been impacted if there is no blood? And the shot that we're about to see in a few moments, doesn't take place. Because it's so iconic.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's so iconic. Like, and as we were watching the beginning of the match, of the entrances, that shot of Steve's glass breaking him through, also iconic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's in the highlight reel.
But this one is in WWE lore. So how do you think that impacts the historical significance of what happened and the consequences moving forward?
Honestly, nice low blow. I couldn't tell you. I really don't know. You're talking about from a story perspective, or are you talking about in terms of like the way that the company was, the shift in the direction it was taking?
What does it do to what else we ended up seeing? Does the double turn mean less?
Honestly, you know what? Now that you say that, I think it would have had. I think it in the short term, cosmetically, it would have had less of an impact. They would have pushed it more because of what they were trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
But I think that visual with him, with the blood running down, it goes through the crack of his, his two front teeth up top, all of that. I personally think that doesn't speed up the trajectory of Austin's rise to the top as quickly as it did. I think the blood aspect and with the way that the crowd was changing helped, and that there's a part in the commentary on this match where JR says something to the effect of there's 18,000 fans chanting Austin, Austin, Austin. That's a testament to Austin's fortitude and the respect that the audience has for his performance in the match.
Yep.
And I feel like they would find another way to get to where they wanted to go with Austin as a babyface, but I think it would have slowed it down with the blood not being a factor.
That's probably true. I feel like, if anything, they just wouldn't have that material to highlight.
Yep.
As they continue to going forward. But obviously you're talking about someone as skilled as Bret Hart and someone as skilled as Steve Austin, where, this was already in motion. You know what I mean? Like you said, the commentary of it all, the setup of the storyline, this was the plan. The blood, in many ways, was just the cherry on top.
Yeah.
I personally think it wouldn't have impacted it very much at all, if any. For that reason, I just think it would have... This was already the star. The stars are already aligned, and there was no stopping it as long as these guys just kept doing what they were saying they were going to do.
Here's a question I got for you. Austin won the Royal Rumble this year. Obviously, he cheated, okay, and he eliminated Bret to win the Royal Rumble. Bret, they set up the Final Four, which would have originally been for the number one contendership, but
here we go.
Here's the big finish. You know what? We're going to play the audio for this.
Yeah.
I'll play the audio for this.
And who would come Stone Cold if he came up here? The blood pouring from the forehead of Stone Cold Steve Austin. He continues to resist the pain. Continues to resist the pain. These people are standing. Can you imagine the pain rushing through Austin's body? See the blood squirting from his temples. Steve, answer me. Austin's losing blood. Austin may be losing consciousness.
One last comeback.
Austin trying to get one more rush of adrenaline. Austin trying to come out alive.
There it it is.
It's not a pretty sight. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Impossible! He's done it! He's never done this! Nobody's ever broken it!
He did it. He did it.
Austin broke the third tier! Or did he?
No, Bret Hart still has it on. I thought for sure he broke it now. Austin trying to reach that rope. Reaching for the rope. Austin will not surrender. He will not submit.
Here's that commentary.
Bret Hart has beaten every superstar!
Do you give up?
With this move! How in the hell Austin is not getting up? I can't understand!
Ken Shamrock stopping it. Stopping it right now. That's it. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Austin had it out! Austin is unconscious! Austin never gave up! Austin never gave up! But he's passed out with a pain!
There it is.
Yep. Wow. Still, I mean, still 25 years later, still hell of a match. Stands the test of time. But what I wanted to ask you as we watch the closing moments of this, should this match have been for the title? And I say this because Austin won the Rumble. Yes, he cheated. It set up the Final Four. It was going to be for the number one contendership. Shawn lost his smile. They made it for the title. Bret wins. Okay? Logically. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but the next night on Raw, they interviewed Bret, and they had announced the WrestleMania main event originally to be Bret and Undertaker because of the manner that Undertaker was eliminated from that Final Four because Austin made a run-in at the end of that finish.
Yeah.
So I was really looking forward to that match. Bret and Undertaker for the title. That, to me, I was like, ooh, that's going to be really good. That's when I was disappointed when Sid beat Bret that night, and then they changed things up, and it was Sid and Undertaker, and then it would eventually lead to this match with Bret and Austin, as you see Bret really further cementing the heel turn by attacking Austin post-match. Actually, you know what? I'll play the audio for this.
Sickening over this thing! Come on! Come on! Austin came... Ken Shamrock just took down the Hitman! Ken Shamrock just waistlocked Bret Hart right to the canvas! Come on, Hitman, let's see how tough you are now! Come on, Bret, don't do it!
You see Vince standing up over there?
Those chorus of boos
Yeah.
directed at Bret Hart.
I didn't realize that just
That's
till
a little
now.
nugget, yeah.
Steve Austin is trying to come around. Austin has lost a hell of a lot of blood. Austin never gave up, but he passed out. These fans are living the essence of Bret Hart.
And Stone Cold Steve Austin in the ring, just kicking away Ken Shamrock. Austin regaining consciousness. The official over to assist him, and Austin will need help. Back into the locker room. Oh, no.
That was such an ugly stunner.
Austin doesn't want any help. He's got one leg. He's lost all kinds of blood, but he's refusing all help. He's going to walk out of here on his own. The man's man, I'll tell you that, whether you like him or not. I don't think any doctor's going to want to come out here and help him now.
Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I've never seen anyone so gutsy that he wouldn't submit, so obstinate, so stubborn, so proud that he would not submit under that kind of pain. His body gave out on him. He passed out. I've never witnessed anything like that ever. And refusing help from anyone, he'll go back and he'll take his pride with him back to the locker room. Have you ever witnessed anything like that in your life?
Did you expect anything less out of Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania? I mean, it was all on the line, McMahon. There was nobody else that would even be able to walk right now, and he walked out of here.
I don't know if I've ever seen an athlete in my whole career that's tough as Steve Austin. That was absolutely amazing. And what about this transformation of Bret Hart?
Well, you heard the boos. You heard the boos. And there, of course, some of the results. I have no idea how much blood Stone Cold Steve Austin lost. And again, that was not a pretty match. And quite frankly, well, one that we're not necessarily proud to show you. But in a match like that, anything can happen.
And I don't see how Bret Hart can be proud that he won because Steve Austin did not submit. He did not give up. So how can Bret Hart say that he's really the winner? Well, the referee had no choice. The referee made the right call. Ken Shamrock did the right thing. Obviously, Austin could not defend himself any longer, losing his consciousness there. And but the thing about it is when Austin left here, 18,000 fans were chanting Austin, Austin. That's a testament of that man's guts and the admiration these fans have gained for this man here tonight.
All right, standing by.
Yeah, that was. All right. Well, that was a lot of fun. Let's kind of close it up here. Should that match have been for the title? Should that have been a WWF Championship match?
Should it have? I mean, can't argue with what we saw. I also think with respect to the storytelling of Sid and his 6 months at the top, if you will, to have some sort of definitive ending was, I thought, appropriate, given kind of his time running up there. So, I wasn't.
But you have to argue too. Sid was not exactly on the top, if you think about it. Yes, he may have had the title, but a cup of coffee here and there. He was pretty much a placeholder when things, with Shawn and Bret and then even Austin. Like he was odd man out a lot of times, even though he was
by the time we got to this point, yes, but let's not forget he main evented Madison Square Garden at the Survivor Series, one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year. 2 months later, helped sell out the Alamo Dome with Shawn Michaels, and defending the title, and then he main events WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I don't know I remember I counted once, but there's only so many people who've main evented at WrestleMania.
Yep.
And I'm not talking night one.
Yeah.
WrestleMania's the last match of WrestleMania to end the year.
Yeah.
Is the main event,
Yeah.
and Sid can say that he's done that.
Twice.
Yeah, twice exactly.
Hogan and Undertaker.
You could put those two guys on Mount Rushmore
Yep.
for sure. So, Sid has nothing to be knocked on as far as what he's done and his contributions. But again, to your point, I think the idea is that Sid by this time, the writing was on the wall.
Yeah.
Bret was going in this direction. Austin was going in his direction. The Undertaker was the Undertaker, and there was just so many moving parts that were starting to grow. And
there wasn't enough spots up top.
Behind. He was going to get left behind.
Yeah, there was only so many spots up top.
Yeah, so I don't think it necessarily should have. I think that having a main event for the title, along with what we saw just now, that's.
I mean, this WrestleMania is very
WrestleMania.
This WrestleMania is very top heavy. Of
course.
You make an argument about it, but
so I think when you build out a card, this if you weren't going to have Sid in the main event, or if you weren't going to have Sid in the Undertaker for the title, because of given Sid's involvement with the title in the 6 months prior, Sid probably wasn't going to have a place on this card unless it was going to be in some sort of filler. So I think it worked out just fine ultimately.
Yep.
Ideally, at least from a historical perspective, probably not the way most people involved would have wanted, but. Yeah. This WrestleMania I think ranks probably on the bottom end or the
Oh yeah.
But honestly, I think it gets more love now than probably when it happened. It's
for sure,
given the historical significance of this match especially.
Right now we just paused and on our screen it's Todd Pettengill with the Nation of Domination, and I just watched that Chicago street fight recently with the Nation against LOD and Ahmed Johnson. And even though that was an ugly match, it was still kind of fun.
It's funny you say that because I do remember, I know we're talking Bret and Austin here, but I do remember watching the free-for-all of this pay-per-view. We didn't order the pay-per-view. We just watched it on the Squiggly channel.
Squiggly lines, yeah.
Yeah, but the free-for-all, when they hyped up this match, or maybe it might even be in this promo we're about to watch, and I heard it, but someone said something to the effect of, we're bringing everything, including the kitchen sink.
Well, why don't we play this right?
And they actually brought it.
Why don't we just play the promo right now?
It could have been here, yeah.
We'll play this promo right now, because actually there's a funny part in this promo that I remember listening to the other day. We'll play this right now before we close it out here this week.
Johnson, Legion of Doom, set to meet the Nation of Domination. There are 2x4s.
I wouldn't say funny, but I was kind of taken aback by something that Farouk said in this promo.
Jokes. You guys have everything but the kitchen sink.
Well, you forgot they're the thugs also. They say the crooks and the criminals come out at night. Well, guess what? They're out tonight in Chicago. And that punk, colored boy out there, Johnson, and the road boy are going to get just what's coming to me. You think I don't have the kitchen sink? Well, just wait and see.
Yep, that's what it was.
But the fact that he called him a colored boy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, but
we just talked about change earlier in that promo. The whole company in general, they were letting everything fly.
And that must have been when I heard it for the first time. They may have said it in the free for all too.
Yeah,
I remember hearing this in a promo, whether it was this one or prior or both. And then when they actually got to the match, they brought a kitchen sink. And I think I remember going not being able to see it, and maybe I'm just kind of filling in some blanks that aren't there, but I remember going, oh, how did they bring a kitchen sink? I know what a kitchen sink looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I thought that was kind of funny. But again, those little things you remember.
Yeah.
And this would be one of them. That's at least.
Funny.
But yeah, nothing to the level of significance than Bret and Austin.
Oh, for sure.
Where would you put this match in WrestleMania all-time rankings?
WrestleMania. All right, all-time rankings. I can't really.
Without building out a list, where would you say
WrestleMania? This makes a WrestleMania Mount Rushmore for sure.
Okay.
If I put it on a WrestleMania Mount Rushmore, it obviously goes up there with Shawn and Taker. It goes up there with Savage and Steamboat.
Ooh.
And Rock and Hogan.
Oh. Okay.
Hogan and Andre, as much as the historical significance of that match and what it did for wrestling, once the bell rang, only anybody cared for was when Hogan slammed Andre.
But I guess I don't know. I feel like if I had to put it to a classification of criteria, a WrestleMania match, and most of what WWE does isn't about matches; it's about moments.
Yeah.
So when a moment encapsulates so much of a match, it definitely puts especially at a WrestleMania, that's gonna rocket a match up there pretty high. I would consider I'd put this on the Mount Rushmore, and I'd probably put Hogan and Andre up there too.
Yeah.
Again, not one of the best wrestling matches, but in terms of just what WWE does, is it checks all the boxes.
Yeah,
and obviously has historical sense. And of course, I'm going to put Shawn and Taker up there.
Yeah.
Because I think it's the encapsulation of not just a great wrestling match, but a great story and the WrestleMania element of those guys. And then, I don't know, Rock and Hogan, you could probably put in there as a rotating fourth or, again, we're not here ranking WrestleMania matches right now, but, definitely the Bret Austin, this match is top 5. And I would say, I wouldn't yell at somebody if they put it in their, top 10.
Yep.
But if it fell outside of top 10, then you probably should get shot. Because this is textbook how to do it, and so much of what happened before and after this, a lot of things intersect with what happened in that match.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I can get down with all that. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate your time. Thank you all very much for listening. Press and play, hit and download. You can find this show on the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network by searching Retromania with a W on all podcast platforms available by searching Retromania with a W. Just like I said earlier, you got this show as well as Marking Out the Days, Hulkamania is Dead, Origins of Attitude, Gaijin Wrestling Radio, all kinds of great bonus content over there. Our home is on Podbean, but search Retromania with a W, and you can find us on Apple Play, Google, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, all podcasting platforms available for this show, Kicking Out at 2. Next week, we continue on the road to WrestleMania, if you will. Next week will be the 35-year anniversary of WrestleMania 3, and you're actually going to dig this, okay? Check this out.
I'll check it.
All right? I've convinced our father to come on next week
Holy shit.
to do a podcast with me covering WrestleMania 3. And why? Because Dad took me when I was 4 years old to see WrestleMania in what they called at that time, 35 years ago, a closed circuit theater. It was a fucking movie theater. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, do you remember where it was?
It was in West Hartford somewhere.
Oh, shit.
I'll have to ask, I'm going to ask him when we talk about it, but
Yeah.
I'm going to have him watch Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage, because that's the match that he talks about when the story comes up that he took me to see WrestleMania 3. And then if we have time, I might squeeze in Hogan and Andre for him to watch as well, because those are the two big matches. But, he's agreed to do it, so we're going to get our father, Mr. Rosenbluth, in here to watch it with me. WrestleMania 3's Macho Man Ricky Steamboat, and maybe Hogan and Andre if we have the time. I'm going to be pulling him out of his work duties during the day relatively soon to get that set up. So that's going to be next week as we inch closer and closer to WrestleMania, the most stupendous two-night event in all of WrestleMania history. Well, so, that's that. So look forward to that next week. 35-year anniversary, WrestleMania 3. There's a lot I remember, but there's a lot I don't remember about attending that. So hopefully, the old man's sharp as a tack. And
I was going to say, you're going to probably find out things about yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're going to leave that podcast going like, wow.
Maybe I won't post this one. maybe this is just going to stay on the cutting room floor. But with that being said, I think it's about that time we officially put this show down for the 3 count. And we'll see you all next week.